Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll start this Bava Kama daf Ayin Hey. We're going to begin on Ayin Hey Amud Aleph, about 8 lines from the top by the 2 dots. Itmar. So we learned as follows: that when it comes to someone's moed b'kanas, now we know typically if you admit to a kanas, we say you're pater. What happens if yachach ba'edim? Witnesses come afterwards. So the question is, the fact that witnesses come afterwards, do we say that it's too late because he was already moed b'kanas, or do we say that he's still going to be chai because Adam came? And this was brought down in yesterday's daf based on the story, the episode of Rabbi Gamliel, who had blinded Tavi Abdo, and because of that, he was going to go free, and he told everyone about it. So he said, okay, you're moed b'kanas. So once you're moed b'kanas, therefore he's not going to go free. So on this we actually have a machlokas. Rabbi Merpat Shmuel Merchayev. Omer Rabbi Bar Ahiloi my time to Rav. Why does Rav have this opinion that even though witnesses came afterwards, you're still going to be pater? After all, now we have witnesses. It's not the same as just being moed b'kanas without witnesses. So my time to Rav, because the pasuk says Im himatzei, if you find, that's be'edim. To matzei, then the pasuk continues to matzes b'dayanim. So when it comes to the chiyuv of paying a kanas, for example, kefel, the din is it's dafka in a situation where you have witnesses, you have judges that found them guilty. Prat l'marshias atzmo. Not if you make yourself evil. If you end up saying, I committed this crime, in that case, you're going to be pater. So normally, why do we need this? We already learned this out from a different pasuk of Asher Yarshin Elokim. So it's only when the Beis Din finds you guilty, but not yourself. So one pasuk is just telling you stam the din of moed b'kanas, you're pater. But why do you have a second pasuk? Because moed b'kanas v'achach b'oedim, you're still pater. Ushmol, what do you do with these 2 psukim? So obviously he holds moed b'kanas as pater, but why does he say you're chayiv if witnesses come? The pasuk itself is coming to tell you the din of someone who's a ganav, they has to pay kefil. Like we've learned elsewhere regarding Tana B'Chizkiya, says Rashi, l'chayv kefil a ganav atzmo, the Darshinin call prat, mehimatzi tamatzi k'da Tana B'Chizkiya. So we ended up learning kal prat and klal to tell us exactly what does that include, etc. So therefore, the pasuk is needed to tell us that a ganav tak has to pay kefil. Esvei, Rav Shmuel. So Rav says to Shmuel, how can you hold that moed b'kanas v'achach b'oedim is chayiv? What happens if ra edim shemashmishim uvoyim? Let's say that they actually have witnesses that they saw that this person was engaged in doing something. He was about to come. Yomer, because he knew that the witnesses were coming, so because he's a chacham, he realizes there's a din of moed b'kanas. So v'oimer ganavti, he says, I stole avol tavachti avol macharti. So what happened? Ganeva is also kanas because you're paying kefil more than you stole. Dalad v'hei is also kanas. Now he said something interesting. He said that I stole, which is being moed b'kanas, but he said I didn't shecht. V'lo macharti, I didn't sell. So in Mishalem el Karen. So the din is he only has to pay Karen. Why? So witnesses are going to come, which means that even though he was moed b'kanas v'achach b'oedim, nonetheless we see your clue, you're pater from paying the kanas. You only have to pay back the Karen. So that's a kash on Shmuel. So Omelei hachmaiskin can go in shechazu edim lachareim. So you have the witnesses upon hearing him testify. So they don't know. So they were like, okay, I was just going to testify this person committed the crime. I just heard that he admits to it, so I'll just leave. So they never ended up testifying. Mashma, if they would have actually come and testified, then in fact he would be chayiv. He says, let the witnesses come and testify. Which is mashma that he doesn't hold like that. So how do you say that? So Shmuel, Rav Shimon, the Koi Kavasi, and the Rav Shimon. So you're having a kasha on me, but there's a shita clearly that says that moed b'kanas v'achach b'oedim is chayiv. So I'm going to hold like him. So Shmuel v'ani tanoihi. According to Shmuel, it's definitely a machlokas tanoim, that he's just going to side with Rabbi Shimon. However, the Tanakama seems to be that he's potter even though witnesses did come. Rami lema tanoi. Maybe we'll say tak. It's the same thing to machlokas tanoim regarding the Rav, that he will disagree with Rabbi Shimon. So maybe he'll say lema tanoi. So Amalek Rav, no. Under the army of Rabbi Shimon, I can even hold like him because Ad can like Rabbi Shimon Hasam. The only time he said let the witnesses come and they'll be chayiv is only there in that particular situation. El mishum de kamaydi machmas biasusa de edim. It was obvious that the reason why this person was moed b'kanas is he saw that the witnesses were about to come. He was not going to say anything. So that's not really being a case of moed b'kanas because it was obvious that he was only saying it because he saw the witnesses coming. So in that situation, he'll agree that Taka, even though it's true that Adam came afterwards, after he was moed b'kanas, he will be chayiv. Only there. That's where he says it. But over here, the moed b'atzmo, he's being moed completely by himself. He didn't know witnesses were going to come. Okay, if witnesses came later on, he didn't know they were going to come. So if you Rabbi Shimon moed, he'll even agree that you'll be potter. Rav Hamnun mistabra milsa the Rav. It's logical when Rav says that moed b'kanas moedim that you're going to be potter is ba'omer ganavti, where the person said I stole, which again is being moed b'kanas. I stole. Uva edim shiganav, and then witnesses came and said that he stole. So potter shari chayv atzma b'keren, because at least in that situation he is obligating himself in something. Because even though it's true that he cannot pay the kefel, that's only the second $100. But that which he stole, he's admitting to. So therefore, we're going to listen to him, and he'll have to pay the keren. Let's say he said, I didn't steal. And then witnesses came and said he stole. Because of Omer Tavachti Macharti, and then afterwards he says I slaughtered and I sold, which doesn't mean anything because maybe he's just saying that he sold that which was his. In that situation, he will be chayiv in daled v'hei shahari pater atzma b'klum, because he was pattering himself from everything. Says Rashi, even though he admitted that he shechted the animal, it means nothing. He knows that being moed b'kanas is pater anyway. He knows that did. Hilkach. It's nothing, not an omission. Umishalim. Because imbo edim v'loyim rinan moed b'kanas imbo edim. V'lo amrinan, we don't say moed b'kanas uvo edim pater. El hecha de ika karen. So over there in this situation, because he's not having to pay anything, so therefore he would actually say you would have to pay the dal v'hei. Omer Rava, ki pachti l'tzabi de Rav. So he said that we should chop down the l'tzabi de Rav, the Rabbi Gamliel, poiter atzma klum habi. In the case by yesterday's daf, again with his eved going free, so by him being moed b'kanas regarding his eved that he knocked out his eye, which means he would be yatzal cheres, but since he was moed that this is what happened with kanas, we said that he's going to be potter in that situation, even though witnesses maybe come afterwards. Okay, now the question is, but would we say that we're going to believe Rabbi Gamliel when he says this? Because he's not accepting any responsibility, because it's the evidence either goes free completely or it doesn't go free. So there's no in between. It's not like money. So Havi, but Rav Chisda, Rav Huna, Mashani didn't answer him. So l'chayra, it's a raya that's not the case. It says Rashi, the Rabbi Gamliel b'hayda shesimas in abdo, when he said that he blinded his eved's eye, pater atzma klum, he ends up potting himself completely. Skipping a few lines. Tikfar ein locha edim, there's no witnesses. Ha'asa edim chayiv. If witnesses would come, we said he'd be chayiv. So we see moed b'kanas edim is even in a situation we're talking about where he patters himself out completely. Okay. V'loshanile says Rashi, Rav Huna l'meimer d'shana b'gamliel the poiter atzma klum havi. Maybe the reason why Rabbi Gamliel we say moed b'kanas edim is chayiv over there is because he patters himself completely. That's why we end up saying no, it wasn't really he wasn't really being moed b'kanas because he was not in Beis Din at the time. haba based in mifterle, bahi hoidal libra rav. However, if let's say he would have been in the based in, then he would be moed b'kanas. So we ended up saying, because it said moed b'kanas v'achach moedim ischayev over there. We're saying it, but he wasn't really moed b'kanas because he wasn't in based in. So it wasn't really a true hodah. Mashma, if he did, then we would say it is a hodah, and we would maybe say not like that. So we don't. The fact that he didn't point out this distinction, and this is a case of being paikta b'klum, apparently there is no distinction. Itmar nami umrav. We also learn like this. Umrav chi barabo imrav yochanan ganavdi. If a person says I stole, which at least he's admitting to the Karen, uva einim shaganav, and then witnesses can be stole. So pater shahari chiyav atzma b'Karen. At least he admitted to something. Of arma lo ganav. I did nothing. I didn't steal. Uva einim shaganav. Witnesses said no, you did steal. The chazir tavachni mecharti, that I stole. I didn't steal, but I slaughtered or I sold. Uva einim shetavach hamach, and the witnesses come chayiv. He has to pay the dal v'heshar pater atzma b'klum, because he was not admitting to have to pay anything. Therefore, he has to pay everything. I can prove this also from our Mishnah and also from our Brisa. How do we see that? Masnisan, first of all, did not. It says, let's say you have two witnesses verifying that he stole, which obviously there's nothing to talk about. Of course, he'll have to pay kefil. But there's only one witness that saw him do that which he would normally be chayiv dal. But hey, you need two witnesses. Al piatzim, or he admits it. So Lamali the Tani Ganval Pi Shnayim. Why does it mention the case that he stole it in front of two people, that two people admit to it? Listi Ganav Tavachu Machar Al Pi Edechon. We just say the case that everything was done with one witness. Al Piatzim, or by himself, the Enim Shalom El HaKaren, that he should only have to pay the Karen as we continue to Ayin Hay and Bebeis. Why doesn't it mention that case? Elolav HaKamashmal, and the reason why it says this specific situation where there was two witnesses that saw him steal is Ganav al pi shnayim v'tavach al pi echad. O al pi atzmo, only in that case, hu dulu machayev atzma b'karen. He was not machayev himself in the Karen, because the witnesses are the ones that said that he stole. Hu d'amrin, only in that situation do we say that al pi atzma dumadi al pi echad. Was why do we saw in the Gemara? Why does it mention one witness? We know one witness isn't believed, but one witness could be believed on some level. And in which way? The malpied echad kiyasi ed echad mitzaref b'hadei mechayev. If one witness comes afterwards, he'll be chayev. Now one witness plus one witness will equal two, and he'll be chayev dal b'hei. So al piatzma nami. There's the key line: kiyasi ed mechayev. Even though he was moed b'kanas, but he didn't really admit to anything to be chayiv even in the Karen. So therefore, because we already have the Eidim that say that he stole, so he's not admitting to anything. And therefore, because of that, even though he's moed b'kanas, if witnesses come afterwards, he'll still be chayiv. Why? Because he didn't admit to anything. Let's say everything was done with one witness. Oh, al piatzmo, the chiyav atzmo b'Karen, if he admits that he stole, so in that situation, we don't compare the two. Namely, that's true. If a second witness comes, he'll be chayiv dal b'hei. But if Adam come after he was moed b'kanas, since he admitted that he stole, which at least will mechayiv him to pay back the Karen, the principal, therefore he'll be part of him dal b'hei. Brisa also supports it. The side we had this before, that you have witnesses that you see they're coming. But the guy says ganavti, I stole. So again, the fact that he said I stole, then itself perhaps is enough to believe him, because he's at least mechayim himself for the Karen. So he does pay back the Karen. So why does it mention that case? Nisni, let the Bryce instead say a case of o ganavti, o tavachni umacharti. Why does it have to say that he stole? Maybe he should say that maybe he didn't steal. So elo hakamashmon time of the ganavti did hud chayvatzma be carrying the potter. Because even though when witnesses come later on, because when he did say it was stolen, he at least admitted to having to pay the principal. So therefore, even when witnesses come afterwards, he'll agree that moed b'kanas v'achaboedim, you're going to be potter, because at least he admitted to the Karen. If he didn't admit to anything, then he'll be chayiv the dalde alma hoida de tvicha lav hoidahi. And we also therefore see that when you admit to the tvicha, it really doesn't mean anything. Okay. So Amri lohi Gufa Kamashma is coming to tell you that Kivandi Amr Ganafti. It's just coming to tell you that once he says I stole, Afa Gav the Amr Lotavacham Macharti, Uva Edom Shatavach Amachar Potter. So even though witnesses come, he's Potter from the Dal Behe. My time, because Tashlumi Arba Amrachmana V'lo Tashlumi Arba V'lo Tashlumi Shloish. You have to pay Dal Behe, not Gimel V'Dalad. So therefore, the fact that he was Moed B'Knas, all it's coming to tell you is that he's Potter from the Kefel. He has to pay Karen, but since he doesn't have to pay the Kefel, so therefore the Dal Dehay is connected to it. It's only if you're Chayav Dal Dehay, but not 3 and 4, because you'll be removing the one in which he was Moed B'Knas by the Geneva. Okay. So Lema Ketanoi. Let's say all this is actually based on a Machlokas Tanoim. What do you mean Machlokas Tanoim? Says Rashi, Hoida de Tficha. That if you admit that it was slaughtered, Iho Dahavi, does it mean anything? Now, you don't admit that you stole, but you admit that it was shechted. So is that a hodah of any sort? So, as we said so far, really maybe isn't, but maybe it's a Malchus Tanoim. So let's listen to this following case. You have 2 witnesses that you stole. So there's no question the guy has to pay kefil. And you have 2 witnesses also that he stole or he slaughtered and sold. So, but there are 2 separate groups of witnesses. Now, what happens if Huzbu Edi Geneva? If another group said, how could you have seen him steal with us somewhere else? So there's no way you could have possibly have seen the stealing. So once there's no stealing, so we say Eda Shabbat Miksasa Batakula. So therefore that throws out everything. He's going to be completely potter. Even though you have good witnesses that says I saw him slaughter it, but maybe Shaloi Tavach Shalom. If you no longer have Adam that he stole, so the fact that you have witnesses that he sold it doesn't mean anything. The other way around, however, who's made it tficha? If all you do is cancel out the Edi's tvicha, so who mishalim tashmi kefil? He still will have to pay his kefil because the other group that says he stole are good witnesses. The hein mishalim tashmi shloisha, and they, the Edim Zeman, have to pay the 3. Mishum Sumcha Saimru, Sumcha says a little bit different. He says hein mishalim tashmi kefil, they will pay kefil. The who mishalim tashmi shloisha lapar u'shnayim la'ayil. Now this is, on its face, is very difficult to understand, because who became Edim Zayman? The ones who said that you stole, that you sold or slaughtered. So then, why do they pay kefil? I understand why he pays kefil, like the Tanakama. Sumchus is hard to understand, and therefore we ask the question: Ahei koi, what is Sumchus' statement going on? Ilema reisha leisle Sumchus Eda Shabbat Miksasa Batakula. If we're talking about the reisha, where there was Edim Zaymimin, we have plotting witnesses on the Geneva. So once there's no Geneva, there's obviously the Tvich Mechira is not going to be, he's not going to be chayav for that either, because there's no witnesses that he stole it. So obviously Sumchas can't argue that. Vela Seifa. We're talking about the other way around, namely, there was the Edim Zaymin were on the Tvicha, so the Geneva still stood strong, but that's hard to understand because Shaper Kami Rabbanon. The Rabbanon, not Sumchas, sound more logical, that Hu Misham Tashmi Kefel, because there's still witnesses that are strong, good witnesses that he stole, so he would pay Kefel. And the Adam Zayman have to pay the 3. So why would he say it in reverse? His statement is on something completely different, because again, in the Seifa, the 2 cases we saw, it's pretty clear, like the Tanakama. So therefore, it's something else. Going to Asubei Trey, 2 witnesses came. Amrule Ganafni said you stole. Armuhu in Ganafni said you're right. Yes, I stole. And then Tavachni Macharti, I slaughtered and I sold. Mihu lo bifnechem Ganafti. However, not in front of you did I steal. V'yaisi Sahadi. Witnesses came, Vazminu delo ba'apayhu ganav, that in fact this person did not steal it in front of those people. But I see Bal Habayis, and the owner of the animal comes. He brings Sahadi witnesses. That actually this guy did, this person did steal and shecht and sold. The whole machlokas, this is again with Katanoi, is what we're talking about here. The Rabbanan Savri, they hold the Avagav the Hoida Begeneva, the Geneva Machmas Edim Hu the Kamoida. Even though it's true that he admitted that it was stolen, he only did it because of the witnesses. Hoida de Tvicha Hodahi Upater, and therefore the Hodah on the Tvicha actually means something, and therefore he's Pater. Sumcha Samar Kivan the Hoida the Geneva Machmas Edim Hu. The only reason why he testified regarding to the Edus of the Geneva is because there was witnesses. The Kamoida Tvicha Lav Hoida. And the fact that he admit that he slaughtered it means nothing. The Hach Edim Kamoi, these original witnesses, Yazminhu, that became Edim Zayman, Mishamatashami Kefil, for whom Misham Shlosham Paro Shnamel Ayel. So we're saying that perhaps it's a Machlokas Tanoim. So the Hodah on the Geneva is nothing according to him, as he is saying this only maybe after the Edim came. So Omer Rav Acha Bered Rav Ikolo, the Kuli Yama Hodah Defiach Lav Hodahi. Really, when you admit to the Hodah of the Tficha means nothing. This whole machlokas has nothing to do with that. It has to do with edus that you cannot be mazam. Pigoyin, what does that mean? The asu sahadi, witnesses came. The amrule ganafti, you stole. The amrule hu ganafti, you're right, I stole. But tavachti macharti. Mihulo b'fnechem ganafti, I didn't steal in front of you. El b'fnei ploini, I stole in front of two other people. The isis sahadi, the azminu dula b'pay ganav. It actually substantiated what this person said. He did steal, but not in front of you. The also, and a second cat came. The also ploni vasihidu beidin ganav v'tavachamachar, as they were actually there. So v'hakim ifli the Rabbanan Sabri havi le'edushiata hazima. So this is considered to be edus that you cannot be mazam. It's not good edus because according to the Tanakama, the second pair of edim aren't giving edus since they can't be mazim them as the Baal already admitted to it, and they are only confirming it because the Baal said, I stole, but not in front of you guys. I stole in front of these two other guys, and then all of a sudden, those two witnesses actually came and confirmed it. So the Baal was moided the kanas, and therefore he's potter. The sumcha savar edus yachol hazima havi edus. V'hakaimulon the edus yachol hazima. Fine. So sumchas holds the ganav still has to pay the 3 times due to the edus of the second kat. So he says 1 second. Sumchas savar edus yachol hazima havi edus. V'hakaimulon the edus yachol hazima loy havi edus. Apparently everyone says that's not good. Now, it's when it comes to Edim, they're asked drishas and chakiras. They want to ask them all these different questions. What day did it happen? What hour did it happen? Where did all these questions? What year, month, etc. So that they'll have this information. Because if the first group of witnesses said, "Oh, I don't know what date it happened. I don't know the day," so that's Eda Shi'at Yachal Hazim. And in that situation, everyone agrees that that's not good because an aid has to have that element of potential of another group coming to be mazim them. But if you don't give them the time when it took place, you can't do it. They're not good witnesses. Avol Hacha over here, Siyuhu de Kamasayale. All they're doing is confirming what he said, and therefore they hold that Eda Shiat Yachal Hazim actually does work. Omer Mar Hein Mishal Matashmi Kefil, so they pay Kefil, but they come by the Ganav Karen Boy Shlumi. I understand. The guy already admitted that he stole. So if that's the case, because he said Ganavti, he already has to pay the Karen anyway, the Baal bias. So therefore, they shouldn't have to pay Kefil. They should just pay the extra. So Rav Elazar Mishmei Rav Tani Tashlim Dik Kefil. So as looking Rashi in the top of Ayin Vav and Aleph, Mishalmin as a Kefil v'hu Mishalm Shleish Levad HaKaren. So you're right. They pay, but not the Karen because he did admit to that. So when it says you pay kefil, it doesn't mean you pay the 200. It means the second 100. But the Karen, the other person who was moida, he would have to pay. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's look at question 2. So again, let's go slow. There's 2 witnesses that testify he stole. There's 2 witnesses that he shechted and sold. Mahadin behuzmu edi geneva. So if there were mazim edi geneva, we say batla edi shabat miksasa batla kula. Let's see how he writes this. Your potter huzmu edi geneva hu potter. It says hamuzuman mishalman kefil. Okay, so obviously they'll have to pay kefil as edi mezaymin. And then the question is umahadin behuzmu edi tficha. So if you're mazim edi tficha, so therefore, the Ganav should still have to pay the Kefel. See, we wrote over here, who's made tvicha? So who Mishalem Kefel, the Ganav, because the first group of witnesses are strong. The Hamuzuman Mishalem Tashlumi Shleishal Ganav. So it's just clean based on the Gemara that we had. TA2, which maybe I should have done this in yesterday's daf. Let's see, maybe I did. Masa. Rabbi Gamliel, Shasimas ein tavi avdo, he blinded his eye. Amalei ein b'vercha klum, shkvar ein loy edim, because there are no witnesses now, which, as we said, is on Ayin Dal Mid Beis and Ayin Hey Mid Aleph. So madua im haya edim yotzil cheres v'niftar b'gamliel b'hayda. So this is either because we hold moed b'knas v'achach moedim is chayiv, or because maybe he was moeda chutz le'beistin, which again is similar to the other questions we had there. Let's see. So as we just saw, we saw it from, again, the story of Rabbi Gamliel, right? Rabbi Gamliel, Shasimas ein tavi avdo, he blinded his eye, so because of that, we see clearly that that din does not apply, right? So this is a way, when we said man b'kanas v'achach moedim is potter, so we say, oh, maybe that's only when he's admitting to the Karen, but not in the situation where he's not admitting to the Karen. So we say, well, that doesn't make sense, because the case of Rabbi Gamliel, let's just read the Gemara. Rabbi Gamliel paiter atzmo meklum havi v'karmulei Rav Chisda Rav Hamnun v'lei kamishani lei. So therefore, that is the answer. TA3, and we saw the Rashi over there. Fine. TB4. Mas svarl chaluk bein moed begneva v'yachach bo edim the patil bein the moed betvicha v'yachach bo edim the chayiv. So im hu moed begneva, if he admits that he stole it, adayin shechayiv es atzmo ala Karen. Umishat umimnei kain hu pater al hakoil. Mashen kin im moed rak al dal v'hei v'hu loy mechayiv es atzmo l'klum hu chayiv. So that's a similar question to what we just saw. That's TB4 on Ayin Hey Mid Aleph. And let's see, maybe a couple questions from Rabbi Gibber, then we'll have to stop. Let's see. B'ma nechlu b'tanakah Rabbi Elazar Rav Shimon b'ra edim mimash m'shenuvoyin v'omer genafti im yichoyin l'edim l'chayvo achshav b'kefel. So I wrote, this is what I wrote. Your putter, since the edim never came in after you, but if they did, then you'd be chayiv like Shmuel. Or Rav holds the edim did come in, and still we see from here moed b'knas v'achach bo edim is putter. Or really the edim did come in, and the Rabban is like Rav, who says you're potter, whereas Shmuel holds like Rabbi Elazar Rav Shimon, who says you're a chayiv. Or again, you could be mechalek. It's maybe only in that situation does Rabbi Elazar Rav Shimon say that. Another question, Rabbi Gibber, Kishi'idu Beis Edim Shiganav. So this guy's a thief. For who Omer Ganafti, he admits to it, V'tvachta B'charti, Miu Lo Lifnechem, who wasn't in front of you, was in front of two other people, and then actually Adam Zeman came that it was not stolen in front of them, and then those two people he mentioned do come that he stole and slaughtered. So he says, Ma nechu sumchas v'chachamim im chayiv hagana v'shalom b'shviloi. So I wrote, they argue on Eidos Sheyatech Lahazim. Rabbanan holds not good Eidos, so you're putter from paying big. So I wrote, Sumchas holds still good Eidos and you're chayiv big. Not sure why I wrote that. That is it. Adkan.